You know, when most of us think about the Quran, we picture this single, perfect book, right? One text that's been exactly the same for over 1400 years. And that's a really powerful idea. But what if I told you the real story is, well, it's a lot more interesting? So let's just jump right into it. Did you know there isn't just one single official way to recite the Quran? Instead, there are several different, totally canonical methods. And no, this isn't some modern theory. This is a core part of classical Islamic tradition, and it adds this incredible new layer to how we understand the text. So, what are these different voices I'm talking about? Well, in Arabic, they're called the qira'at. Let's break down what that actually means. Okay, so the qira'ats are basically the different, recognized ways of reciting the Quran. But here's the thing, we're not just talking about slight differences in accent. We're talking about variations that can change pronunciation, the melody of the recitation, and sometimes even the words themselves, which can, subtly shift the meaning of a verse. Now you're probably wondering, okay, where did all this variation come from? For centuries, a lot of people have pointed to this really famous tradition from the Prophet Muhammad himself. It's like an ancient clue, and it's known as the 7 Araf. So there's this narration, and it's in one of the most trusted collections of hadith. It says that the angel Gabriel first recited the Quran to the Prophet Muhammad in one form, one harf. But the Prophet kept asking for more, for it to be easier for his people, until Gabriel recited it in 7 ahraf. Now, that sounds like a perfect explanation for variation, doesn't it? The number 7. It just seems to fit so perfectly, almost a little too perfectly. You've got the Prophet mentioning 7 ahruf, and then later on, you have the system of famous recitations. It feels like we just found the missing puzzle piece, like a direct, undeniable link. So, this brings up the most logical question, right? Are the famous 7 qira'at, these 7 recitations, just the 7 ahruf the Prophet was talking about? It lines up perfectly, but this is exactly where a huge historical mix-up happened. And here's where it gets really fascinating. That simple, clean connection between the 7 qira'at and the 7 ahruf, it's a myth. And it's a really, really old one. So let's debunk this thing right now. So here's the absolute crucial point. Ahruf and qira'at are two totally different things from two totally different time periods. The ahruf relate to some kind of textual variation that was allowed during the Prophet's own lifetime, and scholars still debate what it exactly was. The qira'at, on the other hand, well, those are standardized methods of recitation that were officially recognized centuries after the Prophet died, all to manage regional differences that had popped up. And listen, this isn't some newfangled modern hot take. Classical scholars took this distinction incredibly seriously. I mean, way back in the 15th century, the famous scholar Ibn Jazari had some very strong words for anyone who confused the two. He pretty much said that only ignorant people would make that mistake. Ouch. Okay, so if the qira'ats aren't the ahruf, then where do they actually come from? The real story is less about some ancient mystery and more about a very real historical need for organization and some careful scholarly work. So picture this. After the Prophet's death, Islam just explodes across the map. You have all these new communities in places like Damascus, Kufa, Basra, many of them not native Arabic speakers, all learning the Quran. Naturally, they started developing their own distinct styles of reciting it. To keep things from getting chaotic, a scholar in the 10th century named Ibn Mujahid decided to step in. He looked at all the styles and chose the 7 most respected, best documented methods to create an official canon. He chose the number 7 probably as a nod to that famous hadith, but it wasn't a direct continuation of the ahruf at all. Now, this whole conversation about qira'ah and ahruf, it's actually just one part of a much, much bigger discussion. It's a huge field of study, both academic and theological. It's all about the history of the Quranic text itself. Brilliant scholars like Muhammad Mustafa al-Azami have spent their entire lives on this stuff. This is not a fringe issue, believe me. It is a central question in Islamic studies, and there are very different schools of thought trying to explain all the evidence we have. So if you boil it down, you basically have 2 main ways of looking at this. The traditional Islamic view says that the Quran was perfectly preserved right from the very beginning, and that these variations we see in the qira'at are themselves divinely authorized, like different facets of the same diamond. Then you have the modern academic or historical critical view. These scholars approach the Quran like any other ancient document. They study early manuscripts and see the different recitations as clues, suggesting a text that had a more fluid, evolving history before it was finally standardized. And it is so important to get that this isn't just ancient history. This is a live, active debate happening right now in universities all over the world. New manuscripts are found, new analytical tools are developed, and the field keeps changing. And this stuff matters. It really does, because it goes to the very heart of how a sacred text is understood, and that shapes everything from a person's faith to their daily life. So all of this leaves us with one last, really big question to chew on. For any sacred book, does discovering its complex human history, its journey through time, does that weaken its spiritual power? Or could it actually give us a deeper, more profound appreciation for the incredible story of how it came to us? It's definitely something to think about.